Okay, just watched episode 7 of the Vanguard reboot dimension arc, and boy, how are we still getting better. What? I don't get it. This episode's the best one yet of the dimension arc. Even though I said that about the past couple episodes, actually. Yeah, it just keeps getting better. I don't get it. I don't get it. But I'm happy. I'm glad I don't get it. So I guess let's just quickly go through the events of the episode, and I kind of will bring up my points as I go. So the episode started with Ultra Red doing a meet and greet with fans and stuff, probably at some kind of convention, handing out signatures and stuff. And their interactions were really cute and everything, and I really liked that. There was like a character who had like this little Korin keychain thingy on his bag, and it was cute, and I hope those exist in real life, but they probably don't. And a Dyrachio cosplayer went up to Suiko, and Suiko was like, whatever, who gives a shit? And to that, Rekka was like, oh, he put a lot of effort into his cosplay, etc., you should probably appreciate it, everything. Which is cool, because that actually adds some dimensions to Rekka's character. You see, one of the reasons Rekka's such a fantastic character is because despite the fact that she's never really ever gotten like much to do, every little interaction she's had has really kind of expanded her character by quite a bit. Because my previous conclusion I came to when it came to Rekka's character was that she was kind of a satire of idols, in that whenever she was in the idol outfit, she acted all kind and sweet and pure, but it was just an act. And whenever, in the second, the guard's down and she can stop acting like an idol, she kind of acts like an asshole. And even though she was in the idol, outfit, and she was there at a convention or whatever, it still seemed genuine what she was saying. Like, it didn't sound like she was just saying that to keep up the facade. And I like that, because it's like, well, she is an asshole, but she's not that much of an asshole. And I like that. Like, she still has some baseline respect for her fans, and she still can't stand Suiko acting kind of like an asshole towards them. And so I really liked that. That was like a really charming little moment, and it kind of, again, helped characterize Rekka into an even stronger character. So I liked that. And things get even better for Rekka's character when she basically single-handedly figures out that even though none of them remember Suiko getting deleted, that's what's happened. Because she saw Kai and Kyo recover from being deleted, and she put two and two together and was like, that's kind of like how Suiko's acting. So maybe that's what's happened with her. And I like that. Because again, it means that she's a smart character too. So damn, they're really doing a lot of Rekka recently. Maybe they've been watching my reviews after all, hey? I doubt it. Then we cut to, most of the rest of the episode is about Kouji Ibuki and how he's being haunted by Greyon, because even though he doesn't want to delete people anymore, he's been kind of won over by Aichi and kind of wants to just enjoy the card game now and hates that his deck has the ability to delete people. And so he's being haunted by Greyon, and hey, great show of like show don't tell, because whilst yes they tell us that Greyon is like haunting Ibuki, they use some cool imagery to show that as well. Like, he'll show up in mirror reflections and in TV screens and all that stuff. Like, it's really cool, because again, they could have just went to they could have just had an image of Greyon in Ibuki's mind, and that would have got the message across fine. But I like that they kind of went out of the way to use creative visuals to show Greyon tormenting Ibuki. So I really liked that. Ibuki does, well, the most obvious thing to do, and that's, well, if the deck is the cause of the problems, why don't I try and get rid of it? But whilst getting rid of it, he runs into this guy who bumps into him and acts all rude towards him. And he instinctively, reflexively, because he's so used to card fighting people that piss him off, because, hey, wouldn't it be funny if this guy that pissed me off gets deleted? That would be funny, wouldn't it? But then he realizes immediately, oh shit, no, I should probably stop relying on that anymore, because, I'm kind of trying to get rid of the deck. So he card fights this guy, he holds back, and it really does a number on his psychological state. So then he runs into Gnome Tatsunagi, and that part is super interesting because we get a bunch of world building and like actual explanations, because all the way back in G, right? They set up this plot thread where like Chrono is going to run into the Tatsunagi family so that they can explain a lot of what's been going on to him. And I was really excited for this because I was like, oh, the Tatsunagi, so like Takuto or Rekka or Korin or Suiko, literally any of the Tatsunagis, I would have been happy with them showing, and it was most likely to be Takuto. Then they bait and switch us by pulling in a Tatsunagi we've never heard of up till that point, Gnome. And Gnome has been reincorporated into this reboot, and the only scene we've really seen him in so far is one where Takuto was chosen to be the concept master, and Gnome was like, oh, thank God. I don't even care that my little brother has to put up with this shit as long as I'm fine. and that was a really funny moment. And we finally kind of get a bit of explanation as to, well, what happened. So basically, because Takuto was beaten and everything in the previous arc, he's moved to Singapore, and so Takuto isn't the concept master anymore, and he's left and he's been replaced by Gnome, who is now, and I quite like Gnome's personality. He acts very kind of carefree, and like he doesn't really care about a lot of stuff, and I really like that. So Suiko challenges Ibuki to a card fight, and say it along with me, most of the card fight gets skipped. See, I'm willing to more or less forgive that whenever the episode itself is good. I don't love it, and I'm gonna mention it every time until they stop doing it. But it is what it is. The card fight was still somewhat fun. Ibuki was holding back because he was scared of Grayon and everything, and that was neat. And it's funny because in the past I was complaining about the reboot being too dark and taking itself too seriously, but my problem wasn't necessarily that. It was more that it didn't earn it. It was just being dark and self-serious for the sake of it. And it didn't really feel like it was leading to anything that needed it. Whereas Ibuki's arc here, about him being like kind of scared of his own deck, is really interesting. I really like that actually. And I really like what they're doing with it. And it's cool to kind of start to see the transition between like, Deleter Ibuki and G Ibuki. Because of course, in G, Ibuki kind of grows up and becomes like this rival character to Chrono. And he's a lot more responsible, and he's a lot like, he still has a serious edge to him, similar to Kai, but he stops being outright evil. He stops being a villain, and I like seeing the progression to that, because I don't know if that's where he ends up being in the reboot. I don't know if later on in the reboot he'll end up being like Chrono's rival or whatever, but I do like the transition, because again, in the original that felt very out of nowhere, because in the Neon Messiah movie, he was like this asshole who was evil and everything. And then he immediately just kind of switched over to being Chrono's rival. And sure, time did pass between those two things. Quite a lot of time passed between those two things. But it still felt very sudden, because it's one of those things that does need time to kind of process and change. And it's cool to see that here, because evil, like Deleter type Ibuki, I was never really a big fan of. But seeing this side to him, and seeing him genuinely like scared for once, is pretty neat too, because he always in G seemed to be a character who was always like kind of in control of his own emotions, and was really good at keeping a poker face. Whereas here, like, he's so kind of scared of his own deck that he's like freaking out and like bending over and everything. And it's neat. I really like that. I like seeing new sides to these characters that we've never seen before. So that's really cool. And I like that. The moment that really got me excited was the transition, I guess, into the next episode, where Leon Soryu bursts in and is like, now I'm gonna card fight against Ibuki. And another thing too is, I like that we didn't fully reveal whether or not Suiko had been undeleted yet, which is neat, because it's kind of implied that she was, but at the same time, because like she says, well, that was a disappointing card fight and stuff, and then Rek is like, well, she can't have found this card fighting disappointing if she was deleted, so does that mean she's undeleted now? And I like that, because in the previous episode, Kai mentions that there's more to being undeleted than just having a single card fight. It's more complicated than that. It's that you need to have a strong range of emotions happen inside of you. And it's something that's difficult to quantify, which I'm fine with, because the supernatural stuff, that's fine. It doesn't need to be an iron tight thing, you know. It doesn't need to be the most consistent thing in the world. It needs to be more, it needs to be consistent in certain regards. If it's like a life or death scenario or whatever, then it can be kind of stupid if it's not consistent enough. But with something like this, where they're playing it kind of lax, you know, it's just, you know, a slice of life arc of characters slowly, gradually getting undeleted, then that's fine. The rules are allowed to be a little inconsistent because it doesn't really matter that much, and it varies from character to character. So I like that. And the supernatural stuff is allowed to be a bit mysterious and uncomprehendable. So I don't mind that. And so I like that. Well, the next time we see Suiko, we won't know if she's been undeleted or not. We won't know that. And it would be cool to see her card fight some more and see her kind of progress further, because I like the idea of us seeing more happen with Suiko. But in the meantime, we'll be seeing Leon Soryu card fight against Ibuki, and I'm really looking forward to that, because Leon seemed really sure of himself and really confident, and like he was having a fun time. And so it's going to be really fun to see those two kind of character dynamics of Leon being so confident and steadfast against Ibuki, who is acting uncharacteristically kind of fickle, I guess is a good way of putting it. And so I'm really looking forward to that card fight because of that. So yeah, that's episode 7 of CardFight Vanguard V Dimensions. And again, it's great. So earlier today, I watched episode 8 of the Dimensions arc, and I didn't get the chance to record it at the time, so I'm just recording it now. So yeah, this was another good episode. It basically just built upon a lot of stuff I really liked about the previous episode. This was definitely just more of Ibuki's arc. And I liked that, because we know that, you know, when he first enters, he's all mysterious and evil and all this and that. And of course, in G later on, he still has that serious edge to him, but he has definitely lightened up a little. He's definitely more of a good person on the inside, and he definitely enjoys card fighting more. And I really liked how they handled kind of the transition from one to the other. They did that really well in these 2 episodes. Of course, him changing decks from the Deleters deck to the Neon Messiah one was very much this was like the physical symbolization, I guess, of said character arc. But I also liked, because I was expecting him to just kind of throw away the Deleters deck and then get the Neon Messiah one. I mean, it was obvious he was going to get the Neon Messiah deck, but I was kind of just expecting him to just throw away and get rid of the Deleters deck. But I like that Leon Soryu confronted him about it and was like, no, if you want to get rid of your Deleters deck, you have to overcome your fear of it. You have to actually stand up to it. And I really liked that. He's like, it's a deck of cards, dude. You just gotta learn to use them. And he did. I really liked it. And we didn't skip very much the card fight, which is neat. I liked that. I think we skipped a little, but not much. Most of the episode was just the card fight. And this is another good example of actually making your plot and characters fit into the card fight really well, because this card fight did a good job of really sort of establishing that character arc and really progressing things really well. And it was a really exciting card fight to watch. I really enjoyed it. I really like how it had those stakes, because again, the stakes weren't so high or low that you couldn't tell, that you automatically knew who was going to win, because that's the thing with card game anime. When the stakes get a certain amount high, you know that either one of the characters is definitely going to win, or they're just going to fake you out. You know, or they're just going to go, oh, the stakes we mentioned didn't actually matter. But with here, they were low enough that either person could have won and we could have still gone away with it. But at the same time, you still care about Ibuki winning. So I really liked that. I really liked the introduction of the Neon Messiah deck. I like that he just got given one of the Neon Messiah cards, because they could have very easily had Gnome or whoever hand him an entire Neon Messiah deck, and Ibuki would be like, this is my deck now. But of course, one of the biggest appeals of CardFight Vanguard and trading card games in general is the idea that you can build your own deck yourself. And because of this, he only got given one card where he presumably walks out and, you know, from that builds his own deck out of it. So I like that. I liked the kind of touch on redemption, I guess. The idea that Ibuki doesn't expect to be given another chance, but he earns one anyway. I really like that. I just really like seeing him grow as a character. I think this is the most interesting Ibuki's ever been, because to be fair, he was just kind of there in G. he got a lot of screen time, but most of the stuff he did in G was to help Chrono kind of develop along. And so Ibuki didn't really get given that much to do himself. And the generic villain version of Ibuki isn't all that interesting either. So I will say this is probably the most interesting Ibuki specifically has ever been. So I like that. That was episode 8 of CardFight Vanguard Dimensions arc. I'm really looking forward to see how things go. I mean, I've got to know what this train wreck is. Obviously, don't say what it is in the comment, but the amount of people now that have been like, oh, you're gonna quote unquote love what's coming up has made me really wonder just how bad it gets. So I'm very much looking forward to that, kind of. Like, I'm anticipating it. I really want to see what it is they end up doing that's pissed off so many people. So I'm kind of looking forward to kind of going into that sort of blind and not knowing what it is. But up until that point, we've been going pretty well. You know, I've been really liking these past few episodes. And I've noticed that pattern, actually, because I kind of went back and rewatched my own videos. I do that not out of a sense of egotism. I do it instead to kind of fact check myself, make sure my videos are actually getting better, not worse, and that kind of thing, and to just get ideas and stuff. That's why I watch my own videos. It's kind of like a chef, you know, how a chef is encouraged to taste their own food before they serve it out. That's kind of why I like to go back and watch all my old stuff. But basically, while doing this, I noticed that every reboot arc has started kind of like this. Every reboot arc has started so far with me going, wow, this is a considerable improvement over the end of the previous arc. I'm actually kind of getting excited about this. And then a few episodes in, something will happen and I'll be like, oh, okay, this arc isn't very good, is it? And so I'm interested to see what that's all about this time too. Although this arc can't end up being, like, it can't have that many more episodes left, is it? If we're going on to the Shin Nita flashback stuff soon, eh? So, and I will talk about that in future, don't worry. But yeah, that's episode 8 of the Dimensions arc. Yeah, I'm very, very interested to see where things go next.